talk about RRSPs all the time. All the time. I wrote a book with RRSPs in the title. Every new year, all of the financial services firms have this huge campaign about RRSPs. So we know about RRSPs. What we don't talk about is that they actually have a limited life. There is a point at which you can no longer contribute to or hold an RRSP. And that's because in the year you turn 71, that thing has to become a RRIF. So today we are going to focus on the RRIF, what it is, how it works, and all the things that you should know. Matt Ardrey is our guest. He is a senior financial planner and portfolio manager at TriDelta Private Wealth. Hello there, Matt.
Hi, Bruce. How are you today?
I am well. Registered Retirement Savings Plans. We know that acronym. RRIF stands for Registered Retirement Income Fund. What does that actually mean?
So there comes a point when you start off, you have an RSP, you contribute, you get tax breaks for those contributions. Now you're on the flip side of that equation. The money is now going to come out of your RRIF, and this money that does come out is taxable income to you. The government forces you to take a minimum, a percentage based on your age, each year. But of course, you are not limited to that. You can take more, but of course, the more you take, the higher income, the more taxes you pay.
A lot of seniors complain about that. Why is the minimum set as it is? What is the government trying to incent?
So the idea is they want you to take this money out over time. That minimum gets higher as the older you get. So at 72, the year typically most people are making their first withdrawal, unless they've taken it early, it's 5.4%, and it just continues to go up from there.
How does the process actually work? Like we know with an RSP, we contribute it. There's a contribution receipt. We put that on our taxes and all that stuff. How do they? How does the government determine what you should take out and prompt you to actually do the percentage that you are required to do?
Yes, so your account is valued as of January 1st of each year, and the age percentage is multiplied by the account value. And that's the minimum amount you are forced to take out. And even if you say you don't want it, your financial institution is legally obligated to make sure that you take that money out. Now, it doesn't mean you have to spend it. Some people turn around and put it into a TFSA or other investments, fund the grandchildren's RESPs with it, whatever they like. But one way or another, you have to take that money out and you have to pay taxes on it.
A lot of people have more than one RRSP, right? Because maybe they have an employer who converted it to a LIRA, or they just have different financial institutions. How does this work with the RRIF? Can you have multiple RRIFs?
Absolutely. You can have multiple RIFs. There's nothing that I know of that puts a limit on the number of RIFs you can have. However, of course, the more RIFs you have, the more tax slips you're going to have, the more accounts you're going to have to manage in different places. So really, you just have to think of the administration of it for yourself personally. Do you want to get one tax slip or maybe two if you have a LIF and a RIF, or do you want to get 20?
You said the institutions are legally obligated. So if I don't call them up and say, hey, send me a check for that amount of money, will they push it out to me by direct deposit, or will they send me a check, or how does that work?
Yes, so typically when you are setting up your RIF account, there's a new account opening form. And on that form, you are indicating how you want those payments to arrive, monthly, quarterly, annually. So you've signed off saying, this is how I want the money to come out to me. And so that's how they're going to deliver it to you.
There are some portfolio implications here because if I have 100% of the assets in my RIF in, an equity exchange traded fund or whatever, that's a very different thing than if it's sitting entirely in cash. So what are some things one needs to think about in terms of the composition of what's in the RIF?
Yeah, so if it's, they're not going to pay any taxes on any capital gains, dividends, interest, anything that happens inside that RIF account. It's just like your RSP. You pay no taxes. All the taxes are deferred until the money comes out. In terms of valuations, if you had 100% equities, well, if you had that for the past couple of years, your RIF value has been going up. But if we looked in other years, we could see that RIF value going down. So you really have to think about how does this fit into your overall asset allocation picture. Are you having just a RIF? If that's your only account, well, then you have to look at, having a balance inside of there for it typically. And if not, you can focus your investments in different ways.
You'd also need to be thinking about time because I guess whatever that minimum is equals an absolute dollar value, say 20 grand or 100 grand or whatever the number is. You'd need to make sure that you've got, let's just use 100 grand as a number, that is in an asset that can come to you in a readily accessible way. Or am I wrong? Could that $100,000 worth of an exchange traded fund get transferred into your TFSA? I guess only if
That's
you have
right.
the room.
Absolutely, that's right. So that's called an in-kind transfer. So most people think about taking a RIF payment as taking cash, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. So I do have clients who use their RIF payments to fund their TFSAs or other investments, and we just transfer investments from account A to account B without actually making any sale of those assets.
What are some of the pitfalls that people run into? This, I'm surprised at how well orchestrated the process seems to me. Having not, I'm nowhere close to 71, so I don't know for firsthand experience. But it sounds pretty organized. What are some of the pitfalls that could trip people up?
Well, one of the things is people sometimes don't think about the tax implications and what that's going to mean for their other sources of income. So all of a sudden, if you only have a RIF and you're taking out larger RIF payments, it gets hit into things like your OAS clawback. So obviously, we know there's a threshold of income around $93,000 or so currently, above which you will start to lose your OAS income. So if let's say for the example I use, you want to buy a new car, but interest rates are now 10% instead of 5% or whatever they are today. And so you decide to take the money from your portfolio and make a large lump sum RIF withdrawal. Well, first you got to think that you're probably taking, I always say $2 for every one. That's dependent on your marginal tax rate, but you had typically have to take a larger lump sum. So it's certainly that's one pitfall that you can look at. Another one that you see is people end up with large regular RIF payments or a large amount left in the RIF as they near the end of their life. And certainly that can cause estate implications because, of course, on your moment of death, everything is deemed to be deregistered from the RIF unless it's rolling over to a spouse. That's the one caveat. But otherwise, it's deemed to be deregistered, and that all plops into your final tax return all at once. So if you have $500,000 left in your RIF, you now have $500,000 of income on your final tax return, and there's going to be a huge tax bill before your beneficiaries receive any of those assets.
Any insight on what people can do if they're in a couple and in a couple where there may be either income disparity or asset disparity? Are there ways to optimize how the RIF works to make the most of those kinds of circumstances?
Absolutely. First and foremost, one of the ones that people tend to push aside a lot these days is the whole spousal RSP, spousal RIF. So, with the advent of income splitting in RIFs, and I'll get to that in one moment, people are less likely to use a spousal RSP. But if you have one spouse with a significant amount of non-registered assets, it could actually be very beneficial to still have all of the income coming out of another RIF for a second spouse. Once you're over 65, you can split your RIF payments under the pension income splitting. So that is not actually splitting the cash flow. It's just an election you make on your tax return. Most tax return softwares have a button that you can click to solve. So it's very straightforward and easy to use. And there's also a benefit to the other spouse if the other spouse does not have any other RIF or pension income that generates the pension income credit, a $2,000 tax credit for your other spouse. But really, it just helps equalize the income in retirement, which is obviously the best way to minimize taxes is to have equal incomes between the two spouses.
I want to come back to asset allocation for a second. So you open this account the year you turn 71. I will be living in probably until I'm 95, maybe 105. It's to be determined. I plan on living a holy heck of a long time. So I won't need a really conservative portfolio in the early going because some of that money I'm going to use 10 or 20 years down the road. We have rules of thumb when it comes to saving for retirement. And one of the ones, as dated as it may be, is fixed income equal to your age. So as you age, you have more fixed income. Are there rules like that, rules of thumb like that, that you would think about when it comes to the RRIF?
I don't typically think of rules of thumb in that way, but one thing I do like to think about a lot more when someone's starting to riff is income generation in a portfolio. Are we generating interest, dividends, uh, cash flow items? So if we have a 5.4% draw rate at age 72, okay, maybe 5% is a little high to try to get a dividend yield that high or something like that. You could probably still massage it and work it, but as you get up, you can't. But it's one of the ways that you can help capital erosion if you can have regular income payments coming into the RRIF that are actually going to fund those payments. Then I don't have to worry about drawing on those investments if they're in a situation where they're down. If it's like right now where stocks are up, it's great. I can use capital appreciation to fund the RRIF payments. But if you're in a situation where markets are down, and we all know it's not if, it's when markets go down, that's when it's good to have some other assets that you can draw upon so you don't crystallize any losses in your account.
It is this phase, the decumulation phase, when financial services professionals really earn their money because it's complicated and there's lots of things to consider. Matt, thank you for joining us today.
It's my pleasure, Bruce. Thanks for having me on.
Matt Ardrey, portfolio manager and senior financial planner at TriDelta Private Wealth. He was here to talk about the conversion to RRIFs.